So all right, hello out there and welcome back. This is Beck Barnes and Jim Steadman of Cotton Grower, and we are coming at you from the historic Cotton Grower Studios right here in Memphis, Tennessee, where we are picking up the pieces here in the Bluff City after a particularly stormy weekend here in mid-January. I know some of y'all know a good bit about that, so we may talk about that a little later. But whether you are joining us from Buckeye or Bainbridge, we welcome you back to the award-winning Cotton Companion podcast. I am joined, as always, by my partner in crime, Cotton Grower's senior editor, Mr. Jim Steadman. Howdy, Jim.
Hey, Beck. Hello, everybody, and Happy New Year.
Yeah, this is our New Year's
It is our New Year's edition.
Episode. I appreciate you bringing that up. So many things have been happening. I lose track that was just about 10, 11 days ago now. So we are back in our office. As I say, it's now a chilly January Monday. As I mentioned earlier, we got slammed by that nasty storm front. It had tornadoes and malicious straight line winds blowing across much of the Mid-South and some of the Southeast, I believe, or probably a good bit of Texas, too, to be honest. I wasn't watching the entire country on the Weather Channel, but I know that I was getting texts on Saturday morning from a lot of my buddies across the Mississippi Delta, and just some wild pictures that folks were sending around of trains flipped off of train tracks and damage to the stuff I hated to see, equipment up in farm shops that was all turned over, and grain bins all ripped apart. And you hate to see that. Y'all know, as always, you farmers out there who are dealing with this, y'all are in our thoughts and prayers. We know it's not a fun thing to deal with, one of the hazards of the job, that destructive weather. So we are thinking about you, I promise you. Aside from that, Jim here was out in Austin for the Beltwide Cotton Conferences, and by the grace of God, he made it back without having a flight delayed. It seems like every time I go through Dallas, something happens and I'm there delayed or rerouted. And
I think it all depends on if you go through Love Field or DFW.
That's well, you must know the secret, because I do not.
I was, we made it back in record time. I think there was a pretty good tailwind. Yeah. As things were brewing up behind us, getting back over to Memphis. But glad to get here safely before all of the excitement started.
Yeah, and dodging all that stuff. I know it was no fun. So as I say, I know from personal experience, Dallas can be a mess when there's weather. But thankfully, Jim is back with us, and as such, he's got a lot to share from being there at that Beltwide. So we'll get into that here in a bit. The first thing we want to do is bring you a short message from our sponsors, Phytogen.
Phytogen is pleased to sponsor the Cotton Companion, bringing you the latest news to help you thrive all season long.
So, all right, that is a timely Phytogen ad, as always, because at this moment, we're going to bring y'all a brief custom content segment featuring our own custom content editor, Robin Sichtberg. Now, she recently spoke with Joel Faircloth, an old buddy of mine. He is Phytogen's U.S. portfolio manager, and we are going to bring you that custom interview segment right now.
Hello, I'm Robin Sichtberg, Custom Content Editor at Meister Media Worldwide, publisher of Cotton Grower Magazine. And my guest on the program today is Dr. Joel Faircloth, Phytogen U.S. Cotton Portfolio Manager. So welcome to the program.
Thanks, Robin. Thanks for having me.
Well, we're looking into a new year and a new season. And of course, that means we're going to probably be looking into new varieties. And I've heard about a couple of new varieties that Phytogen has announced for this coming season, and what can you tell us about them?
So the new varieties coming up this year are Phytogen 400 and Phytogen 500, both W3FE, and we'll be introducing those in 2020 into our already kind of wide-ranging portfolio. We have very stringent criteria for advancement, and one of the stages that we've added is our Phytogen Horizon Network on-farm testing program. So these varieties were tested on 75 different farms in large blocks. From our meeting in December, we had very, very positive feedback. So these growers are excited about these products, and we are excited about these products as well.
Well, that's great to hear. What can you tell us in a little more detail about these two varieties?
So Phytogen 400 is a mid-maturing, medium height, semi-smooth leaf variety that fits very well on both irrigated and non-irrigated land. Well, I guess one thing I'd say about this, Robin, is it's a very manageable plant. It responds well to PGRs, and it responds very well to higher inputs and productive soils. So growers that want to push that. It does have bacterial blight and root knot nematode, as does Phytogen 500, which is the second one I'll mention. 500 is an extremely consistent variety. Fits Lubbock South all the way over to Virginia down to Florida on a wide range of soil types. It is also a smooth leaf, so it fits very well into the whitefly area. And lastly, both of these have excellent fiber characteristics. So micronair, strength, staple, very good. It carries the Phytogen breeding traits for bacterial blight and, again, root knot nematode resistance. In addition to the Phytogen breeding traits that I mentioned, both of these products also have wide strike 3 insect protection. We were the first ones in the market with a 3-gene BT back in 2014. And this has provided excellent protection from pests like bollworm. And they also carry the Enlist cotton herbicide trait.
These sound like wonderful additions to the Phytogen portfolio. That's exciting. But we have to wrap up now, so I want to thank you very much for being on the program. And as always, growers can go to phytogen.com for more information. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Robin.
All right, a big thank you to Robin and to Joel there. And with that, we're going to get the ball rolling on the 63rd episode of the Cotton Companion podcast. And it's going to be a good one. Jim is going to be leading our news segment. Again, he's got a truckload of sort of the newsy items that came out of that Austin Beltwide Cotton Conferences that happened last week. After that, we're going to be bringing you an interview that he conducted while he was there. This is an interview that I myself am excited about because he was able to wrangle our old friend, Dr. O.A. Cleveland, and our other old friend, Dr. Jerrell Neeper, both of whom are respected cotton market analysts, as you no doubt know. And he somehow got them together in front of the same microphone and somehow put together a coherent interview. I'm sure that those two had some lively discussion.
I can't say it was simple, but it did happen.
Yeah. The Siskel and Ebert of commodity pricing, if you will. Maybe they have a future in that mass media, mass entertainment platform role. So anyhow, it promises, as I say, to be entertaining as it is informative. Before we get going on that, though, we just want to take a brief minute here to mention our own bit of news that we dropped in the January issue, which should be in y'all's mailboxes right now. And that is the result of our annual cotton grower cotton acreage survey. Each year, it's a pretty big undertaking. We solicit responses from thousands of people through our online invitations and our mailing invites. And we try to get our audience involved because nobody knows this market better than y'all. Nobody knows the cotton market better than cotton farmers. And so we reach out to each of you to give us your acreage projections in your respective states. I also solicit responses from, folks who are highly informed around our industry, folks like extension experts and various association heads. And at the end of the day, boy, I have to tally up hundreds upon hundreds of responses. It makes my head hurt, but it's because I'm not a huge math guy. But we got it done as we always do. And this year, the number that we settled on, our big number, was 12.08 million acres. That's how many acres we are projecting to be planted in the U.S. Cotton Belt. That's upland and ELS in the 2020 growing season. Now, believe me when I tell you, when I tally everything up on my iPhone calculator, my iPhone, I can't do anything without it. And when that number came across the screen, Jim, I'm sure I've told you this, I was so surprised at how big that number was that I made myself redo. I thought that I'd gotten something wrong, and I went back and made sure I had all my numbers correct and retallied everything, re-added everything, got my averages. And sure enough, it kept coming out to 12.08 million acres across the belt. So to be certain, the reason that I was surprised is because I expected a much lower number. I know that the farm economy is stressed, and I just figured, I had told many people in the run-up to this thing, Jim probably told you as well, that I was expecting 10 million acres, and think I had told people that I would be thrilled if we were north of 10 million acres. Anecdotally, my handful of farming buddies in the Mid-South and the Delta, the farmers who I'm, buddies with, who I text with, had to a person told me that they were moving acres out of cotton and into corn going into 2020. And I think that I kind of extrapolated that handful of anecdotes across the cotton belt. And well, everybody must be doing what these 4 or 5 of my friends are doing. And I was reminded after the survey number came back in of I once heard a very smart person say the plural of anecdote is not data. Only data is data, and this survey really held true to that. After we got all of our hundreds of responses in, did we get a real fully fleshed out picture of what we expect to see in 2020?
And correct me if we're wrong, but wasn't this sort of like a record number of responses this year to the survey?
Yeah, a little peek behind the curtain. We have a new audience department up in Cleveland, Ohio at our corporate offices, and they do a bang-up job of soliciting responses and getting y'all folks involved. And thank you if you're listening to this and you solicited your input via our Survey Monkey survey or our mailing list. We appreciate you. We appreciate your expertise. But a bunch more of y'all did that this year, and it really gave us a clearer picture of what we expect to see in 2020. Again, that 12.08 million acres. For my circling back, I told you my buddies had told me that they were going to be moving acreage out of cotton and into corn. The 4 or 5 of those guys who told me that are all in the same little corner of the Mississippi Delta and Sunflower and Washington counties back where I'm from. Mississippi, for it's in fact slated to plant some 650,000 acres of cotton in 2020. That is down only moderately from the 700,000 acres that growers planted there in 2019. That was kind of a theme across the belt. Everybody was down, but only just a tad. Texas is going to once again lead the way in 2020 with 6.3 million acres of cotton, according to our survey. And again, that's down, but only mildly so from what the Lone Star State planted in 2019. I mean, generally, that's the theme across the Cotton Belt. Everybody down, but only a little bit. In 2019, cotton growers across the nation planted 13.7 million acres. That's according to USDA final planted totals. So this estimate of 12.08 million for 2020, it does reflect in a reduction, but only a mild reduction. Again, it's just not as much as I would have imagined. You want to talk about themes of what we heard repeatedly from growers in every region. Despite the narrow trading range that cotton has been stuck in for a year, it still pencils out competitively with all of the various alternative cropping options that cotton goes up against, no matter what state you're in. The alternative changes, but I think what that speaks to is nothing is untouched by these trade wars. No cropping option. There's no crop out there that is not feeling the effects of this sort of stressed economy because of these trade wars. And so, it's good for cotton. It's good for Cotton Grower Magazine. I hate that there's not, something that you guys can switch to reliably that's really going great guns right now. But for what it's worth, I expect that to change at some point in the 2020 year and y'all to get some relief. Just couldn't tell you when. Hey, maybe Jerrell and OA will be able to tell us.
Well, they do have some thoughts that they will share, and I'll just without giving away the details. First of all, I do want to say after spending a week at Beltwide and talking with a lot of people in the cotton industry, and certainly a number of the key economists in the market, they had all seen the numbers before we all got to Austin, and pretty much didn't have much of a problem with it.
Yeah, that's always reassuring.
I think some were expecting acres to be down 8 to 10%. I think our number was like 12% lower. Correct?
Yes.
But at the same time, it's I think considering the time of year, the timing that we did this, which is right after harvest, it's a pretty good number. And if nothing else, if considering that we're seeing some price bump now, we're getting ready to see a U.S.-China Phase 1 agreement signed, and God knows where that will lead us at this point, if anywhere. But if nothing else, we've set a floor for the for the acreage for this year, and that's encouraging up in and of itself.
Yeah, it is, and encouraging for me. The last thing, the nightmare is that we put our number out and we go to Beltwide where we drop it, and all of the economists and knowledgeable people go, "What what are y'all talking about? There's no way we'll be near to that." But that wasn't the case. It's good. It's reassuring.
Not the case, and I think and now we're a month away from the National Cotton Council's annual meeting, where they will release the results of their planting survey, which is being compiled now. So we'll be able to compare those two numbers, and then certainly compare both of those to USDA's planting intentions report, which usually is the end of March.
Yeah, that's end of March. So we'll have a couple more sort of benchmarks before you guys are actually out there putting seed into the ground. So y'all know we will be paying attention. One last note, I will say, if there was one thing that sort of resonated across the belt for why folks are, optimistic on cotton, more so than you might expect, y'all across the belt, pretty regular response I heard was that you guys really hit it out of the park yield-wise. I think growing conditions on the whole weren't so bad this past year in 2019, and a lot of y'all really did a number on your yields. And, that makes that bear market much easier to bear, if you will. So, anyhow, that's where we are. 12.08 million acres we are projecting for 2020. Time will tell how close we were. So, anyhow, enough of that. I want to end my rambling there, Jim, and turn it over to you for our news segment. Like I say, you got a haul of things to discuss coming out of that Beltwide cotton conferences, so please, by all means, take it away.
Okay, thanks, Beck. Obviously, after several days at the Beltwide cotton conferences, just to give you an idea, it's 2.5 days of 15-minute presentations, basically, except in certain segments, certain specialties. There was a lot of interest this year in the sustainability program that they had, and it was very, very interesting from my perspective to be sitting there and listening to the program, the presentations on sustainability and the value and what we're seeing, what the information we're getting from the market, and then turn around and look at the room, and it was standing room only, and I could not count the number of I hate to call them young people, but the people who are significantly younger than me, but basically the millennials and Generation X level folks who were in the room paying attention, and those are the people who are going to be driving the sustainability effort for us, and the interest is there and the activity is there. So that was interesting.
Yeah, neat to see.
Yeah, the other segment, other program that seemed to generate a lot of attention was the session on the cotton leaf curl virus. That has been found in a number of states, and the fact that there's really no set answers for it. It's been found, but it never seems like it never looks the same in each state. Never shows up looking the same way. So there's a lot of work to be done on that, and it was obviously a topic of great interest to the research folks that are there. But anyway, we're going to start with some more information about new cotton varieties coming in 2020. There was some more discussion about that at the Beltwide. First of all, BASF announced that it's added a new FiberMax variety to join the 3 new Stoneville B3XF varieties that they introduced last summer. Those varieties performed well in limited exposure throughout the Southwest, Mid-South, and Southeast. The new FiberMax variety is now titled FM 2202GL, and it'll be targeted to those irrigated or dryland acres in the Texas High Plains and eastern New Mexico where insect protection traits generally aren't needed. The company folks tell you, it gives you high yield potential with good fiber quality, plus tolerance to drought and to verticillium wilt. So they were very excited about that. Cropland has also introduced 2 new B3XF varieties. The first, named CP9210B3XF, is an early to mid-maturity smooth leaf variety that's broadly adapted to fit those early season geographies across the cotton belt. The other, named CP9830B3XF, is a full season variety that fits that lower mid-south and southeast and works well on both irrigated and dryland acres. And finally, Phytogen last week, in addition to announcing their varieties back in December, announced that their Phytogen Horizon Network growers are going to be able to plant the industry's first reniform-resistant cottonseed varieties on their in-farm trials in 2020. Those varieties include the Phytogen breeding trait for reniform resistance, and that gives you some built-in season-long protection against reniform nematodes. And after this initial year with their network growers, Phytogen's plans at this point are to launch those reniform-resistant varieties in 2021. So things are moving, looking at some new activity and some new options coming to cotton fields near you. Beltwide has also served as a venue to recognize individuals within the cotton industry for contributions and achievements to research and service. And this year, as usual, several honors were announced. And the key honors this year went to, first of all, Dr. Dan Fromey, who is Associate Professor and State Specialist in Cotton, Corn, and Crane Sorghum at LSU Ag Center. Dan was named the 2020 Cotton Specialist of the Year. And that's an annual honor where the winner's selected by a vote of the cotton specialists in the 17 states where cotton is grown. It's really kind of the ultimate peer honor.
Yeah, also a very fun award ceremony to go to. If I were, I was kind of jealous of. I'm sure you were there this year.
I was there this year.
Yeah, that's a fun group.
We will not go into a lot of detail, but yeah, it is. It's a fun group.
Depending on who the honoree is, it occasionally devolves into a roast.
Yes. Yes, didn't quite get that warm this year.
Yeah.
This year, too much respect for Dan, I think.
There you go. Yeah, that always helps.
Yeah, definitely. The 2019 winner of the Cotton Genetics Research Award is Dr. Don Jones, who is Cotton Incorporated's Director of Breeding and Genetics Research. This is an award that's presented by the Joint Cotton Breeding Committee. Jones has devoted more than 35 years to plant breeding and genetics. He has a long list of industry-leading accomplishments to his name, more than I can certainly cover in this, but you can find that list, an article about this award currently on cottongrower.com. Congratulations also go to Dr. Seth Bird, who is the Cotton Extension Specialist and Associate Professor at Oklahoma State University. Seth was a recipient of the Dr. J. Tom Cothran Outstanding Young Cotton Agronomist Award, which is an annual award presented to someone who's still starting to make their hit their stride in the cotton work in the U.S. And it's well-deserved honors for each of these gentlemen. And one last note, when it comes to recognition, the February issue of Cotton Grower, which we are working on right now, will feature a profile of Walter Priestley. And Walter is the winner of the 2019 Joseph J. O'Neill Cotton Marketer of the Year award. That's presented by Ice Cotton and the folks at BASF. Now, Walter from Robstown, Texas, runs a diversified farming operation down in the Coastal Bend area, all while still moonlighting as a professional steer roper in the Professional Rodeo Cowboys Association. Something he's done for years. He has an interesting story, and I'm looking forward to bringing it to you in the February issue.
Yeah, very, very good. I'm looking forward to reading that. Nothing but respect for those steer ropers. That's a man's sport there. I don't know that I've got the heft to body slam those steers like those guys have to. Anyhow, Jim, I'm holding you there. Did you get to everything?
No, I think we're good.
Okay, very good. Okay, in that case, with your permission, I'm going to hold you there. And we want to go now to that interview that we talked about earlier that you conducted with two very smart, very knowledgeable gentlemen, Dr. O.A. Cleveland and Mr. Jerrell Neeper. And before we dive into that, I guess I could ask you, did these two agree on anything going into 2020 planting and marketing season?
Surprisingly they did. And I think everybody that has been looking at the market indicators, certainly for the last month, I think the December supply-demand report raised optimism and proved to be fairly bullish. As OA puts it, the young bull is getting its legs under it at this point. And when we conducted this interview, it was the afternoon before the January report, which I believe has sort of only fueled the optimism just a little bit. But we talked about the market, we talked about prices, we talked about trade situations, and we did talk about acreage. So it was a very productive, very good, actually fun interview, and I hope everybody will enjoy it.
Well, no doubt about that. I'm certain it's a fun one. So we're going to bring that to y'all right now. Here are Dr. O.A. Cleveland and Mr. Jerrell Neeper.
Welcome to this episode's market segment. Today we're sitting in Austin, Texas at the Beltwide Cotton Conferences, the first big cotton meeting of the year each year, and also the first opportunity to kind of get a feel from the market and from the experts in the market of where we might be headed for this year. Today I'm joined by two longtime friends, and it's good to be face to face with them and do this semi-live at least. Dr. O.A. Cleveland, Professor Emeritus of Ag Econ at Mississippi State, and Jerrell Neeper, who's president of TrueCot Commodities. And I guess you're still based in California, correct?
Yes, in Bakersfield.
Okay. Gentlemen, thanks for joining us, for joining me today. We've got a new year. We have got some new information regarding prices. We've got some new guesses out there for the cotton market. Since our last visit, and we're just basically saying back in December, how have things changed or evolved in terms of prices, in terms of market movement and things like that? I'll let whoever wants to go first can go first.
Well, I think the biggest involvement is it seems like the Trump administration and the Chinese have come to an agreement on phase one, and that's certainly going to be very beneficial for U.S. growers. I don't care if it's cotton, soybeans, or corn. There's clearly a debate on how beneficial it's going to be in the short term, but certainly in the long term, it's going to be very beneficial for U.S. growers. I think that's one thing that's helped this market get up here into the low 70s so far this year, is the agreement. Now, can we stay up here? That sort of depends on the world economy. But the world economy, I mean, you look at the U.S. stock market, it's saying that the U.S. economy is in very good shape. I think this agreement is going to help China. They were sort of starting to hit some speed bumps, and this may, flatten out those speed bumps a little bit and get them going. So things are starting to kind of percolate to the upside in terms of just overall better economic activity, and I think that's going to help cotton consumption and help cotton prices continue to move up slowly. I mean, you always say that you climb a wall of worry when prices are rallying, and there's a lot of things to worry about, but we're climbing that wall of worry to higher prices. Wouldn't you agree, O.A.?
Absolutely. We started out, if we recall, or as I recall, back in the November WASDE report that was extremely bullish, but the market moved none whatsoever. But 2 weeks after that, the market did move higher. The December WASDE was bullish, and the market has continued to move higher. We get this report coming out momentarily, and we'll just see if we can continue this momentum. The momentum was enhanced by, as Jerrell said, the impending signing of the phase one situation and what we've seen in China the last 48 hours. The market activity there certainly says that the Chinese are very serious about signing this phase one next week. And I think that does bode well for old crop cotton as well as new crop cotton. Now, nothing is going to just jump right up. There's still some back and fill that will go on. But I think we began to gravitate towards 75 cents. There are some hurdles on the way there. I think we'll jump them, but then we'll just have to sit back and wait and see about plantings. We have ideas there, but we'll see what materializes, and then all of a sudden, before we know it, we're going to be in the growing season.
Well, let's talk about plantings for just a minute, because Cotton grower we always do our annual acreage survey. It shows up in our January issue, and we posted it on our website January 1. And after all of the information came in from growers and from extension sources around the country, and we were able to do our country boy ciphering to put some numbers together, we came up to roughly 12.1 million acres for this year. That, based on USDA's final number last year, it's basically 12%. Good number? Bad number? What do you think?
Well, I think it's a very good number. I think I will tell you and congratulate you. The industry and the entire cotton industry, not only here in the United States but around the world, looks forward to the Cotton Grower Survey every year. It's the very first best guess. It is a true planting intentions, so it should be a best guess. There's some misses, as one which should always expect, but I was glad to see it. There had been so many rumors about being down 15%, 20%, and even more, that I believe your report was down about 12%. Mm-hmm. And I think that that's very accurate, not to second guess. I'm assuming that, based on let's just say primary conditions around December the 15th or so. And since then, we've had several cent higher increase in prices. So I would tend to think that acreage is going to be down only about 8 to 9% as opposed to 10 to 12%. But it's, I think it bodes with your report bodes well for cotton growers and the cotton industry. So I like your number. I think we'll be able to pull a few more acres than that, though.
Well, I think we're okay with the number, obviously, and if we do nothing more than set a floor for this market for this year, then we're happy to do that.
Yes.
We'll see what the National Cotton Council comes up with. Jerrell, what do you think?
I couldn't agree more. I think your number of 12.1 million acres was a little bit of a wake-up call. Like, oh, okay, and the market has reacted positively. New crop has reacted very positively to that number. And, the corn and soybean futures prices have not risen commensurate with cotton. And so, I think you will set a floor. I do think, like Owe says, we're going to be down a little bit, 8-9%. There's going to be pockets that are a lot more, obviously. But I think relative to the grains, cotton is looking a little more attractive than it was, let's say, a month ago.
Right.
Yes.
Okay. Owe, you mentioned the WASDE report that we looked at back in December. That was the most bullish report we've seen in a while, and here we are, less than 24 hours away from the first report of this year. Any thoughts on what we might see tomorrow, and what where the market might end up, how it might react or not react?
Well, a lot of speculation. I think many of us are looking for a small decrease in the crop size in the U.S., as low as 100,000 bales, as much as 300,000 bales. And Jerrell jumped right in, but at any time. But at the same time, USDA may wait until basically the June crop report to give its final number. But I think there's a little bit smaller crop. And then we've got places around the globe we can pick at to say a little bit more production here, specifically Brazil, maybe less crop here or there, and maybe a little bit stronger demand somewhere.
You wonder, why are we at 70 cents? Well, the initial crop number that came out of USDA was 23.5, and they're, we thought at one point, at least I did, that it was going to be hard to keep the U.S. production maybe under 24 million bales, and now we're talking about a U.S. crop that's just under 20 million. Ending stocks, are going to be closer to 5 million than 8 million bales. And so just a lot of the supply-demand fundamentals here in the United States have improved dramatically. You typically don't see a lot of adjustments in the month of January. At least that's if I'm recalling things right away. But so I don't expect to see a big decrease. I've heard rumors that maybe a big decrease is coming tomorrow, based solely on more cuts in Texas. But you've already cut that crop so severely. I don't know what more you can do. In the state.
What are they going to plant? What are you going to plant instead?
Well, I'm talking about the crop size for this year. So I don't know how much more you can cut out of that crop, but obviously there's we're going to see some more. Mm-hmm. So the supply side of the equation is certainly helping prices get back up. The demand side, which I think is going to be a little slower coming along, but I think it will come along, is going to help propel prices probably into that mid-70s to 77 cent area. A couple of months ago, Owe and I were talking, and I felt like there was a measured move just from a technical perspective to get up to around 77 cents, but you're thinking, this can't be right. What's going to happen in order for us to get up there? Well, things are starting to come in place, and I don't know who exactly came up with the commentary. Maybe it was Joe O'Neill who said, technicals are always the leading indicator of fundamentals, and so these technicals are saying that prices should continue to move higher.
Mm-hmm. You knew Joe well. What would he think of this market?
Well, Joe loved every market.
He couldn't find a market he didn't like. Huh?
But Joe was always famous for making the comment that good markets come out of demand. Mm-hmm. And he would be looking for the demand side, and we all should be looking at the demand side. Demand was being talked down somewhat last year, but it's beginning to be talked up again somewhat. So Joe would like the market. Also, Joe would talk in terms of the market being coming off of 56, 58 cents, 59 cents, running through the 60s, and just now touching 70 cents. He would be looking for a market that would tend to want to look to the mid-70s before it began to make adjustments. That the somewhat, I don't want to say long-run equilibrium, but the trending long-run equilibrium is going to be in the low 70s to the high 70s. So getting around 75 cents is what that's where we want to begin our job. The market begins its job of rationing either supply or bringing more land into production.
Mm-hmm. Have we finally caught the attention of the spec markets at this point?
Yes. Specs have been short cotton. They've let go loose of those shorts. And Jerrell helped me. They're ready to come back in. They're beginning to come back in the market, but they have a world of money to put back in on the long side of cotton.
I think some of the heavy lifting has been done by precisely what Owe said, is the specs have been covering shorts.
Right.
Now, do they make the decision of just, hey, let's go long? And I think we're very close to that point of where they're just going to say, this thing looks good to continue moving higher. If we get a somewhat friendly report tomorrow, not only is supply demand supposed to come out on Friday, but the export sales report's going to come out tomorrow. And if the combination of those two are sufficient enough, it may bring in a pretty good chunk of buying.
Mm-hmm. So basically, I think we can say from December to now, there's enough evidence out there, enough movement to kind of reassure the market that things are going to be okay.
Right, and you just have the natural seasonality of the market anyway. Mm-hmm. I mean, typically around Thanksgiving time is when the low part of the market is. Of course, we hit that a little earlier this year. But now, we're moving into the early springtime where, the job of the market is to assure that there's enough acres to meet demand for the following year.
Yep.
And with the signing of the Chinese agreement, no telling where the demand is, but I think people are feeling like it's going to be better than what we've seen this year so far.
I think that's very, very true. We'll see an enhancement with respect to sales to China. I've not been as pro bullish a response from the settlement of the tariff issue as some others, and I'm not so much now, but Jerrell and others have made the comment to me a number of times, so it just removes this uncertainty surrounding the market, and that's very important to any market. It's very important to a speculator to get rid of that uncertainty, so it makes it easier for them to come to the cotton market.
Absolutely. Well, I guess it's a great way to start a new year, and we'll just kind of see where things go. Obviously, the next acreage report will come from the National Cotton Council here mid-February,
Right.
and then we sit and wait to see what USDA says toward the end of March.
Yep.
So again, if we're sitting as the floor, I'm perfectly content.
That's right.
With that. Gentlemen, we're going to have to wrap this up and let it go, but I thank you both for joining me today. It's always a pleasure to get to be face-to-face with you, and I certainly appreciate your input on this.
Thank you, Jim.
Thank you.
All right. Now, here's the rest of the Cotton Companion.
So, all right, now we want to give a big thank you to OA and to Jerrell, who are always so much fun to visit with and always very generous with their time. A big shout out to Jim for, as I say, wrangling those two in for a dual Market Minute interview. Such a good way to do that thing. So, okay, that's going to just about do it for this installment of the Cotton Companion podcast. We want to thank Phytogen for sponsoring us, and we want to thank you, dear listener, for joining us. Please if you like what you're hearing, tell your buddies about us. That's the best form of marketing we can have for this podcast, is you guys to tell your friends about us. And when you do that, tell them they can get to us in 3 easy ways. The first, go to cottongrower.com/companion. When you do that, you'll go to a landing page that has all 63 of our episodes now. The second way, you can subscribe to our channel on iTunes or wherever it is that you find your podcast these days. The third way, the best way, is to sign up for our e-newsletter, the Cotton Grower e-news. And you can do that by going to cottongrower.com/subscribe. Also, make sure you're following us on social media. We are at Cotton Grower Mag on Twitter, and on Facebook you can find us by searching for Cotton Grower Magazine. We hope that you are enjoying our latest issue, the January one, which is in your mailboxes now. It's got that acreage survey as well as a feature story on our 2019 Cotton Grower Achievement Award honoree, and that is Mr. Dalen Hancock from out there in West Texas. So we wish you and your family a happy new year, and we hope that 2020 is going to be a great one as we go forward and get into it. This podcast is produced by Kim Henderson, who works at the mothership. She's filling in for our normal guy, Tyler, and she works there at the mothership, Meister Media Worldwide, as well, in beautiful Willoughby, Ohio. My name is Beck Barnes, and I'm going to be back with you in 2 weeks for the next episode of the Cotton Companion. For now, on behalf of my own Cotton Companion, Jim Steadman, we wish you and your farm all the best.
Works all day. God made it fun.
Phytogen thanks you for listening to this edition of the Cotton Companion. To learn how you can thrive with Phytogen, go to phytogen.com.
God